talking about Mount to Coast, the S1 and the Mount to Coast R1 here. Welcome and welcome back to Gear Up, a Marni On The Move podcast production and On The Move media series where I, Marni Salup, review and recommend gear, products, shoes, and apparel from the worlds of running, cycling, triathlon, and wellness, all the things I love. I am a recreational runner, an age group triathlete, an avid cyclist, and a wellness biohacker. You can find me middle of the pack when I race. I'm also a heel striker, and really right now, these days, I'm just out there racing and having fun. I've done over 25 plus half marathons. I have completed 14 plus 70.3s, 1 marathon, and 1 century. Here on Gear Up, when I do my running shoe reviews, I talk about my perspective and my experience running in the shoes, usually anywhere between 25 and 30 miles logged of a variety of distances. I also like to talk about what it's like to run in these shoes off the bike for my triathlete viewers. Before we dive in, full disclosure, Mount to Coast sent me these shoes to review. They did not pay me to do this review, nor have they seen this review prior to you. You are getting the scoop here first. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about Mount to Coast. The founder, Yeti Zhang, was on the Marni On The Move podcast just a few months ago this summer, and he talks all about the idea behind the brand, what shoes they're developing, who they're developed for, and lots of fun things. So if you haven't already listened to my conversation with Yeti Zhang, I highly recommend you do it. Mount to Coast is a new brand. They launched in 2023. I first discovered Mount to Coast at the running event in 2023 November, and I got my first Mount to Coast shoes in 2024. It is a fairly new brand, and they are really crushing it with their great shoe design and functionality. If you want to know what's new for 2025, head over to the Sub 5 series where I just chatted with Yeti at the running event in November 2024 about what's coming for 2025. This shoe brand is definitely one to watch. The shoes are really designed for ultra runners, and so with that, keeping that in mind, they're super durable. They have a lot of longevity built into the shoe, and they have some good stability, but also some bounce. So let's get into the S1 and then the R1. The S1 is the daily trainer, and the R1 is the race shoe, which is lighter and faster than the S1. Off the bike, the S1 is definitely not a shoe for me. The R1, however, potentially could be a good shoe because of the super cool lacing system here, where you can lace the bottom half separately from the top half, which is designed for ultra runners so that your foot can breathe, and when your foot swells up, you can release these laces as opposed to cutting off the top of your shoe. But I think it would be a great one for triathletes too. Let's talk tech specs when it comes to Mount to Coast. The S1 is designed for an 8 to 14 minute mile easy run pace. It's a great sturdy shoe. The zero sag midsole insert has little degradation during long runs, which is important if you're ultra running. Also, the light cell midsole base features excellent lightness and bounce. The GoFlow midsole geometry guides your stride, and the TPU heel cage has improved stability, and the upper is a jacquard engineered mesh with 100% recycled yarn. The S1 weighs 9.35 ounces for a men's 9. The heel to toe drop is 10 millimeters, again designed for an 8 to 14 minute mile pace. The upper is a jacquard engineered mesh, as I mentioned. The stack height is 36 heel and 26 forefoot. The R1 has a Tune D Fit dual lacing system for separate lace adjustment, as I mentioned. It weighs 8.5 ounces for a men's 9. It has an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. Also uses the dual zone zero sag midsole inserts, the light cell midsole base, the GoFlow midsole geometry, and the double layered jacquard upper. Very similar to the S1, just different drops and different weights. and a different lacing system. The R1 is great for races over 100 kilometers and above, multi-day races. Again, why I think it's a great triathlon shoe, because you're out there, it's a long day. They are designed for a 6 to 13 minute pace, and the stack height is 35 millimeters in the heel. They retail for $150, and they come in 4 different colorways. I'm really into this shoe by pace suggestion, and think it's a very cool and innovative way to talk about the cushion in a shoe. So kudos to Mount to Coast and one of the other brands I recently reviewed. All right, so all in, I'm really glad that I have these shoes, because as someone who's getting back to running and after a sprained ankle, I could really use something that's not super cushiony or bouncy, and I like the support of both of these shoes. Although I really have been primarily walking around in the S1, I've recently done some comeback runs, as I like to call them, in the R1. Both of these are keepers, they're great shoes, and if you're an ultra runner or a marathoner, I feel like you would get a lot more benefit than I am in these shoes. All in, I highly recommend Mount to Coast. They even have a new shoe out now. They have a P1, and they have 2 new shoes coming out in 2025. So check out my convo with Yeti on the podcast, also on this YouTube channel for the Sub 5 series. And if you like this review, hit me up in the comments, like it, and also subscribe to the podcast. See you next time. Over and out.